Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing another video from Grab the Lantern today. We just got the first look at the Nidalee voiceover update on the PvE. I've had to listen through it, and I think it's just head and shoulders above where Nidalee was before. Gone are the absolutely terrible mating season jokes that Riot made back in 2011, and we actually have a character voiceover that makes the character sound like she belongs to Runeterra, the universe that she's supposed to belong to. There are a lot of really cool world-building moments, like calling small cougars Paquiti, for example, or Paca as a larger cougar. Nidalee has lines for Emilio and for, I can't remember, Nefiri, the new Darken character, which is already just like a way for us to see more of the character before we've actually had her introduced. And it's just such a big jump up for Nidalee. Now, not only does she have good gameplay, but she also has a voiceover to match and make her feel like she belongs in the game, as opposed to the walking cougar joke that she was prior, which was not interesting at all. And it got me thinking about other characters that could stand to use an update like this. I think that there are a vast majority of characters that could use some degree of voiceover update, though that said, a lot of those characters are going to be getting a voiceover update alongside their inevitable ASU or VGU. But I think that there is a very narrow band of characters that aren't super critical for an ASU or VGU, but whose voiceovers are still dated to the point that they could really use some kind of update and some kind of refresher in the meantime. And those are the characters that I wanted to talk you guys through today, sort of my top 5 picks here, and why I think that these characters are more deserving of an update than some of the other characters. First up on the list is Master Yi. Now, admittedly, he's like probably the worst looking character on this list. I do think Master Yi could probably hold up for an ASU, but I do think he looks a lot better than some of the other characters that we know are going to be up for an ASU. Characters like Amumu, for example, or Zillion for a full VGU. In that regard, Master Yi, I think, looks fine, and therefore I wouldn't see him as very high on the docket for one of these updates, but he certainly could use a voiceover update. His voiceover is, like, purely functional. I think it does the bare minimum that you'd sort of want out of Master Yi, but it also feels like Riot were biting their tongue really, really hard when they were writing his voiceover, because they didn't want to make him an entire joke, but also they reference a lot of jokes in it, and it feels like they did the bare minimum that they would need to in order to make Master Yi an official character and not just a walking joke, but also not to do anything more than that. Nowadays, I think that there's a lot more that Master Yi has going for him. He has a surprising number of universe stories written about him, and also he plays a relatively relevant role in the whole Darken Saga story that happened over in Legends of Runeterra that I think did a lot for his character and helped develop him out as a legitimate, non-jokey character that I would really, really love to see more development happen. And as a result, I don't think he's, like, super critical to have a voiceover update, but I think it would do a lot for the character. I know he's a very popular character as well, and as a result, I think it would be really cool to see Master Yi get some degree of voiceover update. Next up is Thresh. The biggest issue I take with Thresh's current voiceover is that it was created for a completely different character. Back when Thresh was released, he was basically just a slasher films monster, right? He was the Freddy Krueger or the Jason Voorhees of League of Legends, where he has a backstory where he was a human and then he became a non-human monster, but you sort of acknowledge that he was always a monster underneath it all and nothing really changed other than that he now has superhuman powers, right? And that was Thresh when he came out. But since then, we've gotten a ton of development for Thresh, honestly surprising even me, to the point where he's a very prominent figure in the story of Ruination, and is a big reason why the Ruination happened, and now he's like the Lord of the Shadow Isles while Viego is Fridged, he controls the Black Mist. There's a lot going on with Thresh as a character that just doesn't quite line up with his older voiceover, which is so surface level, and I think that there's a ton of things that Riot could do. They could be showing us that Thresh isn't just torture for the sake of torture. He does enjoy it, of course, but almost all of Thresh's actions have a human motivation behind it. Whether it's you wronged him and therefore he's going to avenge that wrongful 100 times over, or that he identifies with your barkeep and you guys were mean to him, so he's going to basically murder all of you and strap you to the front of a carriage and let the barkeep whip you, which is one of the things that happened over in the Legends of Runeterra shorts, which I thought was hilarious, but it goes to show that Thresh has a character. He has motivations, he has reasons, he's cunning. He's not just this monster that says, I'm going to torture everybody. There's always a reason behind what he does. And his current voiceover, I don't think quite gets that across. I would love to see a voiceover that lets us peel back the layers of Thresh from more than just the monster and to see sort of the man that was lurking underneath. Obviously, he's still not a very identifiable character. You know, you shouldn't see yourself in Thresh, hopefully. But ideally, we can see more of Urlock Grail and not necessarily all of Thresh. At the number 3 spot, I think Nasus is a really good candidate for a purely voiceover update. I think he looks totally fine. He got a visual update a while back that I think works well enough. His gameplay, I have issues with it personally, but Riot are clearly happy with it because they haven't looked at him in ages. But his voiceover, I think at this point, is getting a little dated. I believe he got his voiceover update at the very beginning of sort of the Shuriman renaissance, where Riot were starting to turn Shurima into an actual legitimate region. And the sad thing is, I think that at this point, Nasus's voiceover has sort of gotten power crept, so to speak. I don't think he has lines for the majority of the new Shuriman characters that were released. He doesn't have any lines for Darkin, which, as we know, Darkin are a huge part of the sort of Shuriman cultural impact on the rest of Runeterra. For negative, of course, but they're still there, right? And I would love to see Nasus have lines for Darkin. I would love to see him have lines for Xerath, have lines for Azir, who I don't think was out at the time of his voiceover update, or his full VGU. There are just a lot of things that I think have happened since then that I would love to see actually come out with Nasus. I think that he already has a lot of lines that help convey his character, but I would love to see an update that allows us to see Nasus now that Azir has arisen. What is Nasus doing? Is he on Azir's side? He's not on Xerath's side, but does he entirely agree with Azir? Can he have lines for Talia and Sivir, whom he's canonically met? Can he have lines for Darkin, probably most of whom he recognizes from the ancient Shuriman days? There are a lot of opportunities, I think, that you could specifically do with Nasus that I would love to see Riot grab with both hands and give him that voiceover update. At the number 2 slot, we have Jinx, and honestly, a lot of the Arcane characters could probably use a voiceover update. This isn't to say it's motivated entirely from Arcane. Arcane naturally is non-canon to the game story, so you can't be looking at Arcane and say everything that happened there applies to League of Legends, and why is it referenced in the voiceover? But I think Jinx could really use one because Jinx is so much of a deeper character than her voiceover allows her to be. Jinx's voiceover is very much so entirely jokey, entirely, oh, I'm so crazy and silly, and I'm the manic pixie dream girl of League of Legends, except I might actually kill you, ha ha ha. And it's so garish and over the top, and it worked in League of Legends back in the day, but I don't think it works now that Riot are trying to take League of Legends seriously, so to speak, right? They haven't really done the super jokey characters in quite some time, and I think I would love to see a more serious take on Jinx. This isn't to say that she should stop having her crazy girl jokey lines. I think a lot of those work. But I would like to see Riot use the voiceover as an opportunity to delve deeper into Jinx's motivations, to show the character underneath the sort of crazy girl facade, to let us see Jinx as the crazy genius that she is. Her devices, she all made herself. She is able to concoct extremely complicated plans, and I would love to see some more of that come out. I'd love to see some more of Jinx's personality come out when she's confronted with, let's say, a Piltover who potentially ruined her life, right? Jinx doesn't like them. Can we see more of a serious approach to her recognizing those characters? More of a serious approach to her recognizing Vi, for example. Does she try to say, hey, Vi, come join me? Does she hate her sister? Is she indifferent? I would love to see some more development and experimentation with Jinx, and I think her voiceover has the most potential out of a lot of the other Arcane characters, that is to say Jace and Jace, Victor, Vi, all these characters, right? They could all use one, but I think Jinx has the highest potential to have a really kick-ass voiceover update, and I would love to see Riot try it. However, the number 1 character that I would love to see get a purely voiceover update is Miss Fortune. Miss Fortune has had a tremendous amount of character development since she was released. When Miss Fortune came out, and unfortunately her voiceover is still like this right now, but it's just a walking sex joke. That's all Miss Fortune is, that's all her voiceover is. There's nothing interesting or engaging about it, and in fact she's one of the last few characters in the game who references summoners directly. Now obviously summoners aren't necessarily non-canon, they're sort of in a gray area, but suffice it to say, it's really embarrassing that Riot still have a character referring to summoners when summoners haven't been in the lore for like a decade now. So I would love to see a voiceover update to at least remove that, but also Miss Fortune's had so much development. When she was a walking sex joke, the voiceover that she had worked. But now that she's had so much character growth, and we've seen her in so many different stories, and even in so many different games at this point, that we actually understand Miss Fortune as more than a 2D characterization of a pirate bounty hunter. We know Miss Fortune as the capable pirate badass captain that she is, who, yes, she's not above sex, she's certainly no prude. There's a really hilarious scene in the comics where she and one of the other Bilgewater guys are flirting with each other, and they both know that they're trying to manipulate each other, but it's a really funny scene, honestly. But she's not above sex, but that's not her entire personality, right? And currently, that is her entire personality in her voiceover. I think it would be really, really cool for Riot to take a stab at updating her voiceover to let us see the actual badass pirate lord that she's supposed to be. Obviously, you can maintain some of the dirty jokes and innuendo, but I think that there's a lot of room and growth for Miss Fortune to have. I know Riot made a stab at updating her voiceover back during the Burning Tides era, and they decided not to because the player base was a little split on if they wanted Miss Fortune to continue to be a sexy joke character or to actually be a legitimate character, and I think that at this point, enough momentum has gathered that Miss Fortune needs to be a character, god dang it, so Riot, please update her voiceover. But those are my top candidates. You'll have to let me know which characters you most want to be updated down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like. And if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.